Hey guys, it's Alex of Coyote Star Astrology. Welcome back to my channel. This is my full moon in Libra video for April 7th, 2020, if you're on Pacific Standard Time. And I just want to tell you guys that in the history of having this channel, I have never been more grateful to all of you. Because if you are a student and a seeker of astrology, at the very least, it suggests that you are a seeker of truth and that you are a seeker of truth outside of the programming that you were likely given by your society, by the society that you were raised in. And we really need people like you right now because there's a lot of information flying around and a lot of it is untrue. A lot of what we're being told isn't 100% adding up. There's a lot of confusion, and a lot of that comes up this full moon. And this full moon really illuminates the steps we need to take and the energy that we need to embrace in order to navigate through these waters. So let's look at it. Here's our full moon on April 7th, Pacific Standard Time. It's a full moon in Libra. Libra highlights our relationships with other people. Libra, the symbol is the scales, which represents balance, or the need and the desire to find harmony within our relationships. So Libra highlights the polarity of viewpoints and experiences between two individuals. This is one individual's world, their entire universe, their perception, their points of view clashing and attempting to harmonize with the views of another person. This can be our friends, this can be our lovers, this can be our colleagues, this can be our channels, this can be our Facebook, our Instagram, our text messages, all the ways that we communicate with other people. And Libra, in its desire to achieve harmony, is also seeking justice. Libra, the archetype, is kind of like our ideal judge in a courtroom, because this is the mediating element between two viewpoints, two experiences, two stories, two theories, two opinions. I think this, you think that. What's the truth? Does it lie somewhere in the middle? And more than that, how can we get along peacefully while we try to figure this out? Now, Libra is ruled by Venus. So she is the ruler of our full moon. So we want to look at Venus and what she's doing. And we see that Venus has moved into the sign of Gemini. Another sign that represents duality. And Venus represents our values and what we place value on. So when Venus is in Gemini, the collective places value on information. It places value on intelligence. Gemini, the archetype, is here to explore its world and broaden its mental horizons through data collecting, through exploring different types of information. And it does a lot of this through conversation. This is the function of Gemini. I always use this example for Gemini. Gemini, the archetype, is the archetype that can go to a cocktail party with people from all different parts of the world with all different types of belief systems and jobs and family dynamics and relationships, and can circulate the party and talk to each and every person and collect information and opinion from a relatively unbiased point of view. Because Gemini is not so much concerned with the truth as it is simply gathering information. It's exploring. It wants to know. It's asking why and why and why. Tell me why. I want to know more. The polarity of Gemini is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is on the search for truth. Gemini is more so concerned with just knowing more and knowing more and knowing more. So this is a time now and during this full moon where we need to be gathering information objectively and as much as we possibly can from a non-biased standpoint so that we can get all the cards on the table. So let's back up and just see what we have here so far. So we have a full moon in Libra, which is highlighting relationships and a need to find harmony in relationships. And the ruler, Venus in Gemini, is doing this through exploring its world, through data collecting and information and communication. So you can see there's a lot of chatter here. There's a lot of chatter here. So let's follow the trail further. So some of you may not know this, but astrologers can follow the trail by looking at a planet, in this case Venus, looking at the sign it's in this case Gemini, and then we look to the ruler of that sign to follow the trail. So the ruler of Gemini is Mercury. So let's look at Mercury because that's going to further tell the story of how this information is being received, how it's being felt, and how it's being understood. And this is where we run into a little bit of a problem. And this is the part of this full moon that I want to give some caution around, because when we look at Mercury, we see that it's in the sign of Pisces, where the truth can be convoluted because Pisces rules fantasy. But not only that, but it's conjunct the planet Neptune, the ruler of Pisces. Neptune is the planet of illusion and deception and smoke and mirrors. It's psychedelic, it's trippy, it can get off of the rails, it can be unclear, it can be confused. So this aspect, by the way, Mercury conjunct Neptune, is not just happening during this full moon. It's been happening the whole week prior. In fact, this aspect was exact on April 4th. So everyone's mental headspace, the collective mental headspace, Mercury and Pisces, has been crossing over the planet Neptune, the planet of confusion, disillusionment, paranoia. So while everyone might think they know what's going on, unfortunately, with this aspect in play, we know that the truth is not clear, which brings me back to my original point, Venus being the ruler in Gemini, we simply need to gather more information and try to be as open as possible while we do so. And full moon in Libra, try to get along with others while we do this, right? We don't want to become more isolated from others than we already are right now. You know, we're already incredibly isolated from one another. We can't gather. We're in quarantine. We don't want to make matters worse by putting stress on our interpersonal relationships while we all navigate this space. So let's continue. Another aspect that actually speaks to this point as well is this one right here, which is Mars square Uranus. Now, Mars is our desire. It's our action impulse. It rules our survival needs, our instincts, and our raw physical energy and how that energy is expressed. Uranus is the planet of revolution, change, and disruption. It's explosive. It's electric. So having Mars, our drive and our responses, in square, which is a tension point and a conflict of interest with Uranus, means that people can become eruptive. They're on edge. Reaction times are not smooth right now. I think it's safe to say, with everything going on, we're not encountering people at their best, right? And it's been a really frustrating time, not to speak to the obvious, but from an astrological standpoint, when we had Mars move into Aquarius, it was being blocked by Saturn. That was happening all last week. So Mars being our drive, being blocked by Saturn, which is authority, this is a frustrating signature. This is kind of like a teenager saying, I want to go out and see my friends, and an authority figure, their father or mother, saying, no, you can't. You have to stay inside. You have to do your homework because I said so. Because I have power and control over your desires. So all of us share that right now. I think that's pretty safe assumption to make. I know people that were getting married next month. People are losing their jobs. I'm stuck in Australia. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I was supposed to fly out on the 31st, and the airline didn't even notify me. So I assumed my flight was okay. I got to the airport and it was empty. And it was open. It was really weird. It was open, so you could walk in, but there was no one at the desks. There was no airport personnel. There was cleaning crew kind of walking around with masks on, spraying everything down with bleach, and the screens were on showing that every single flight was canceled. And for a pretty terrifying 30 minutes to an hour, I was told that there would be no flights leaving Australia until earliest June. But luckily, I contacted the embassy and I've been able to secure a flight leaving. To my knowledge, I think this is accurate. The only flight leaving Eastern Australia is one flight track from Sydney to San Francisco, which I'm going to, thank God, fingers crossed for me, leaving through on the 7th. But it was really frustrating. You know, it is frustrating. And my point here is that the collective is experiencing the frustration of having their desires blocked. We've also had a fair amount of censorship emerge over the last week. Some of you may be aware of that, which I think, and we talked about this last video, I think a lot of that has to do with Saturn square Uranus. Saturn, the planet of authority in Aquarius, technology, squaring Uranus, the planet of revolution and information. Authority blocking information. It's frustrating. People want answers. They want to know if they're going to be safe. They want to know if this is going to be over soon. And they want to know what's causing all of this. So, full moon in Libra, illuminating the need for us to learn how to get along with others during this very difficult time while we all walk along our own path towards the discovery of truth through information. So I think that we need to try to remain open, pragmatic. We need to work on our communication skills, Gemini. And we need to try to find peace with others and come together during this really difficult time. And I have got to tell you, I'm so speaking to myself right now too, because it's something that I've not only had to really try to master recently, but you know, I'm an astrologer. I've made a career out of something that the majority of the world thinks is BS. And I don't really encounter this that much anymore. It does happen, but you know, there was a time where I quite often encountered individuals that would tell me that they didn't believe in what I was doing. And the problem with this is that it actually offends me on a pretty personal level, simply because by suggesting that what I do is nonsense, they're suggesting that essentially I've made a career out of scamming people. I mean, can you imagine? Can you imagine if I had studied this for, 10 years and put all this work into this and was taking people's money to get on the phone with them and feed them lies? I mean, what kind of person would I be? That would be awful. So it's been a real challenge. It's been a real challenge to have conversations with people like that and not get angry. Because if I get angry, then not only am I a crazy astrologer, but I'm an angry, mean, crazy astrologer, which, like, I can't imagine anything worse. I mean, I might as well just walk myself into my padded cell and put on a tinfoil hat and call it a day, Like, I'm just going to look nuts. And that's not helpful to me. It's not helpful to trying to get this other person to understand. And it's not helpful to astrology, which is already so misunderstood and judged. And just to finish this point, I can say that 100% of the time, a person that thinks astrology is nonsense is just vastly misinformed. And that's not their fault, because we were taught to think that this is nonsense. Right? They're vastly misinformed. Most of them only have a basic knowledge of astrology, their sun sign and what have you. And those of you that have gotten a personal reading, you know that tells you almost nothing. And if that person were to be open and unbiased and have a conversation and have a reading with me or another astrologer that they were interested in, I can say, if it's a good reading, they're going to walk away singing a very different tune. And I've seen that happen more times than I can count. So I digress. I think that you guys understand here. I guess the other aspect of this chart that we really want to look at is that Mercury is in direct sextile to Jupiter and Pluto. So what does this mean? Mercury, again, it rules our mind. It rules the way that we process information, and it's in sextile to Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and Pluto, the planet of transformation, which means that people are having their perception transformed massively, rapidly. This is the collective third eye opening, but there's a lot of confusion and misinformation, and a lot more to be revealed. I was on an astrology panel at the beginning of the year in LA. Some of you may know Deborah Silverman. She's an amazing astrologer. She's a friend of mine, and her speech on the panel was one of my favorites. And I wish I had the footage so that I could quote her directly. And I hope I don't butcher this, but she had a very powerful message, and that message about these times, the age of Aquarius, the information age. Her message was, how do I get along with you when I don't agree with what you're saying? How do I get along with you when I don't even particularly like you as a person? And she was speaking to exactly what I'm speaking about in this video, is that we really need to work on our ability to not only be bombarded with a lot of really hard to digest information, but learn how to get along with other people while they do the same. And I think that that's exactly what this full moon is about. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I know I said this last time, but hopefully, hopefully the next time I talk to you, I will be back in my studio in California. I hope the audio was okay. I'm on a semi-busted pair of headphones while I'm overseas. And I do want to link you guys to my Instagram. Some of you that follow me on Instagram know that I do a lot of posting through my Instagram story about astrology, but lately it's been a lot about current events, theories. I do a lot of activism outreach through my Instagram. And again, I do bi-monthly astrology posts. So I'm going to put that up there on the screen. For now, I am leaving all that kind of information out of this channel because it's crazy out there and I want this to be a refuge for you guys. You guys came here for astrology, and for now, for the most part, that's what it's going to be. I am, however, going to put down a few links below to information that I've found during these times that I think is very worth watching. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and find those links below. And if you would like to reach out to me for a reading, you are more than welcome to do so. I will put my website up there on the screen. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and a share. I really appreciate it. Hang in there, guys. I know these times are crazy. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next video. Sending you so much love. Talk soon.